today we're going to talk about contract. Contract is a very simple subject. However, there there are basically two different kinds of law that govern contract. So that's where usually it gets tricky. So contracts that are for service or any other kind of contract that is not for the sale of goods are governed by the common law. If a contract between two parties, merchants, involve the trade of goods, the contract is governed by the UCC. So goods basically is defined by the UCC as the any movable object. So during the time of the contract, if the parties trade something that's movable, that's a good, and that is governed by the UCC. So the first thing when you get a fact pattern to analyze if the contract is governed by common law or UCC. If the common law applies different terms like the acceptance differ a little bit than the Uniform Commercial Code. So let's go. When the next step that you have to see in a fact parent contract is that was there a contract between the parties? If the parties really had a contract that can be enforced, and you go by what did they trade? Like for example, let's say that they trade press. Press is like huge printers. So if they trade press, was there an offer? So in the situation that I just evaluated today, there was an offer. Like the Delta was a print company and Press was a manufacturing company for printers. So what happened was Delta was the buyer and Press was the seller. Delta sent a request to buy 3 units of Press, and each unit they agreed to pay $25,000 for each unit. So Press accepted the Delta's offer because they were a manufacturer from those kind of products, and what they did was they put the terms of the offer in writing, and they forward this condition, they forward this simple form from the Press company to Delta. And in the contract, they said that Delta has to object any terms of the contract, like if they wish to return a good with a very time frame. So what happened was the Press delivered the 3 items for Delta with the written form to form the contract, to have the contract in writing, since they had both agreed upon this trade. So um, Delta received the three presses, and a few days later, Delta contacted Press, and they told Press that they want to return the third item. They no longer want to keep the third item. There was no need for the third one. But Press argued that they couldn't accept because the time has lapsed for them to return the item, and Delta should keep the products as agreed in the contract. But Delta didn't accept Press denied to receive the item, and they really request that Press would go and pick up the third item because there was no places for them to place the third item. So Press went, he picked up the third item, and he sold the third item to somebody else, to a third-party company. But somehow Press was unable to sell the printer, the press, for the same price as they had agreed with Delta. The difference in price was about Delta would agreed to pay 25,000 for each item, and this other third-party company only paid 22,000 for the printer. So press was in a loss of 23 no, of $3,000. And what happened was, in evaluating this contract, we have to see that there was an offer for this contract and there was acceptance. Acceptance usually is, if the contract is not for the trade of good, the acceptance has to be in accord with the mirror image rule. If the contract is governed by UCC, the mirror image rule does not apply, and if there is any difference in the terms, the party can negotiate. And the big deal about the UCC is that no matter how the terms differ, as long as the party comes to an agreement, as long as they have everything in writing, if it's for above $500, that's basically all what the UCC requires. So in this particular contract, the acceptance was clear by the by the buyers. So the buyer accept the terms and conditions for the contract, and in fact they had an enforceable contract. Both parties had an enforceable contract. And so the next topic that I would evaluate in this contract was the statute of fraud. The statute of fraud basically says that a contract, when it's for the sale of good and the amount exceeds $500, in order for a contract to be enforced, it has to be in writing. Was the contract in writing when the party firmed the contract? So let me see. Yes, they exchanged the forms for the manufacturer company, and there was a written and signed contract, and therefore the contract between Press and Delta for the trade of 3 press was in writing. So the contract satisfies the statute of fraud. They were in accord with the statute of fraud. That basically means that the contract is enforceable. If one of the parties comes to breach this contract, the court will be able to recover damage because the contract is valid contract, is an enforceable contract. The parties are merchants. The merchants usually are entities that consider themselves with expertise for the trade, the good that they trade. So in this case here, in this particular scenario, Delta, she was a printer. She print like she print item like books, all kinds of printing for customers. And Press was the manufacturer of printers. So Press. So they both were merchants. What happened when the parties are merchants? The the merchants, they are according to this UCC, special rules apply for merchants. They are required to keep a high standard of good faith in order to comply with the UCC requirements. So here we have 2 merchants. They were aware of the terms of the contract. They comply by the term of the contract, since they were doing the contract in accord with the statute of frauds. They were both part of legal capacity, and that was a enforceable contract. But as the contract went on, as I said, we heard that Delta no longer wanted to keep the 30 items. So for analyze this, we can see there was a breach of contract by Delta. The breach of the contract usually happens when one of the parties has a duty to perform and they simply doesn't want to perform. So what happened here was, even though Delta has received the 3 press and had agreed to pay $25,000 for each press, there was a total of $75,000. Delta no longer was complying with this he acceptance, was not performing his contract, because first of all there was a minor breach when when Delta returned the one of the press to the manufacturer, and the second breach, there was a major breach, was when Delta refused to pay for any of the press, even though the press was calling and requesting payment. Delta was refusing to pay. So in this case here, it's clearly stated that the Delta broke the contract, not only in a major breach, but also in a minor breach, and probably the court will have to enforce this contract and to give some, there be some damage for for the non-breach parties. So here press brings a suit against Delta. The question is, will be press be able to prevail in a breach of contract with Delta? So what was found in here was that in fact there was there is something what we call expectation damage that that press could recover from Delta, and the expectation damage is basically the exchange of the bargain, how much the party was expecting to receive for this contract, and analyze this situation. We can see that right now Delta debt is no longer $75,000, and Delta debt is I would say is only um, $53,000, because the 30 item was sold for $22,000. So 22 minus 25 minus 22, they had a remain of $3,000. So the liquidation damage that probably the press you have to receive from Delta will be a total of 75 $72,000. So that will be the award that press you have to recover to receive it from Delta, and that's the analysis for this case. This breach of contract between Delta and press. That's it. Thank you.